I want to call this meeting of the October 30th Mount Airy Planning Commission to order, please. Let's stand and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Planning Commission members, has everyone had a chance to look over the,
Well, Bill, can I make one thing really quick? So we do also have a set of closed meetings that we're also voting on as well. It's August 28th, 2023. It's we went upstairs. So that's also in your packet. So you have to approve those as well.
yeah, I did,
Okay.
I did. Okay,
Vote to
But you guys have to vote to
Yeah.
approve them.
We have to vote to approve it. So you just need a motion then?
yeah.
The motion is
Need a motion
second.
to approve the closed meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the closed meeting minutes.
All right, is there a second?
August 28th.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, absolutely, it passes. Okay,
And then, of course, the September 25th minutes as well.
all right, and then the September 25th minutes, if all of you have had a chance to look over those, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I have a correction.
Okay, very good.
On page 2, ordinance 2023-39, where it says second by Ken, K-I-N, it's K-I-M.
It's not Ken?
It's not Ken, sorry.
Oh.
Ken just changed sexuality, it's now Kim.
Right.
All right, very good. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve that change as well as to accept the minutes.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from the September 25th.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
All right, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and they pass. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and address any citizen comments, topics that are not on the agenda. Anybody have anything that you'd like to share with us or any questions you'd like to ask? We'd ask you to come to the microphone and identify yourself. Tell us if you are a Mount Airy resident or not, and we'll go from there. Limit of a couple of minutes if possible, please.
Only be 2 minutes. My name's Charles Katsarubis. I live on Candace Drive. Okay, and let's see, the last time I came to one of these meetings was back of May 9th of 2018. And in here it says that you all made Candace Drive a distributor collector street. Now, I want to know what gives you the right to do it when it's county property, it's not city property.
Okay. John, Barney?
I don't know what paperwork
Comments?
he's referring to, but
Oh, I'll gladly show it to you.
You're talking about
we don't make
turn-
those determinations.
turns off of Main Street? North Main,
Yeah.
just as it makes the bend to
It's Candace
County
Drive.
Line.
They
Yep.
declared it a distributor collector street, and the city did. It's county road there.
And when did that occur?
This was,
18.
this was a Board of Appeals hearing from May 9th, 2018. I actually was not here at that time, so you might give it to Barney and possibly, do you want to get she wants to get the number off of their case number.
Barney, do you recall that at all?
I'm not sure. I think a portion of Canis Drive is in the town, so maybe it was mentioned that that's,
The portion of
Collector.
Sterling Glen is in the town.
I understand.
The rest of it is not, okay?
Yeah.
You guys have originally, the original plan was, when you opened up Sterling Glen, you were.
Sir, can you speak into the microphone just so we can,
Yeah. No,
everybody
I'm
can hear
sorry.
what you're saying?
When you originally were going, when I bought the property, the town plan was that when they built Sterling Glen, that they were gonna open up Candace Drive and it was gonna connect over to Rising Ridge Road. And that never got done. And I called in one time and I asked about it. They says, oh, we just didn't do it. Well, it kind of let the builder off the hook because he didn't have to put sidewalks, streetlights, and all that down Candace Drive because it's not part of the city. You know, he would have had to run water and sewer and all that. So they got off the hook for that. And in the meantime, the only internet I can get is Comcast, and I have to pay a lot more because of that's the only thing I can get. I mean, Fios isn't going to run a line down the street just for me. So,
Okay.
and the other thing is since they've opened the street, I mean, cars fly down Candace Drive like crazy.
Well, we have a problem with speeding in many, many places.
Yeah, and they never, well, one time there was a county cop who came out and he sat out there and gave a bunch of tickets. I mean, he was giving tickets left and right. And then I said something one time to one of the Mount Airy cops, and you know, he didn't really register with them. So
Okay, all right. Let me make this request. Before you leave tonight, would you please give your name, address, and contact information,
of course I will.
especially the address to this lady right over here?
Did you sign in as well? Yeah. Okay, just
All right,
put
then we
an
got it
asterisk
there.
beside your name so we know
Yep.
who to contact you. It's at the
Yep.
back. Thank you.
Okay, any other citizen comments or requests? Okay, then I think we're ready for our county planners. Hannah? And before we hear from our individual county planners, I want to make a general request of both of you. Anything that you or your county planning department is working on that may potentially affect Mount Airy, maybe there's development in the area, maybe it's something else that could have impact or relationship to us, would you be sure to call our attention to it just so we are aware? All right, we'd appreciate that. All right, go ahead, Hannah.
Well, as far as development, there's not much going on around Mount Airy on Carroll County side. But
Shucks.
so I do have some updates about the Bureau of Comprehensive Planning, now that we are called that. The economic development study that basically kicked off the beginning process of our general development plan, that is posted and finalized on our website. That is just going to serve as the basis for our master plan chapter for economic development. We had a consultant come in and look around the county at different economic development aspects. And then the water and sewer master plan that was discussed a couple months ago, that was approved by the Maryland Department of Environment. So from now going forward, the new water and sewer master plan will be the 2023 Carroll County Water and Sewer Master Plan. And if you would like maps, we can get those printed for you, and that's also available electronically on our website. We have the Maryland Department of Transportation tour this Thursday at 2 o'clock. This is for elected officials to come to the county office building and talk to the Maryland Department of Transportation secretary, as well as the county commissioners will be there. I was talking to Mayor Hushauer. He said he was going to be attending. And this is going to be a recorded meeting posted later where different municipalities come and discuss the transportation once with the Department of Transportation, what they would like to see happen and just get everything out in the open. And then on November 14th at our Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission will be hopefully approving our transportation master plan. This will not be going forward to the county commissioners because we are going to be including it in our master plan. So it'll be an appendix to that, so it'll get adopted at the same time the master plan gets adopted with them.
What's the approximate date for that?
For the adoption, we have 2025 right now.
2025?
Yeah, we are in, as maybe you guys know, we are looking for a deputy director for planning since Linda Eisenberg left. And that is going to be their main undertaking, is the general development plan for the county. So we are hoping for a 2025 date for that adoption.
Okay. We're of course just seriously getting underway the development of our 2033 master plan. So pretty much everything that's in the 2023 plan, the current one, could be potentially dated. And so in terms of where Frederick County Planning and Carroll County Planning were at the point when we wrote that, okay, we're going to need you to take a look and see if there's any updates we need to be aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. And as with you all, the county has the 60-day review, and then you all will obviously have the 60-day review for our general development plan at that time.
Excellent.
Yeah, and that's it for me.
Okay. Any questions for Hannah? Carroll County side?
I have one really quickly. So the one feasibility study of Carroll County, that plan's online, you're saying?
The economic development study?
Yes.
Yeah, that's online.
Okay.
And I believe they are going to the planning commission in November and taking it to the county commissioners. But since it's just a study, it's not up for approval or adoption or anything, just for their knowledge.
But that is online for
Yep.
review?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Okay, we're going to let you off easy tonight.
Thanks.
Your turn, Justin. What's new and different and of potential concern and that we should be aware of?
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. I have nothing really new to provide on that input. The first item that I have is that our Sugarloaf Treasured Landscape Plan was recommended to the County Council. Last meeting, I did mention the MXD committee was created a report to the Planning Commission. They decided to table that till all Planning Commission members were present. That was sort of re-looking at our mixed-use districts because it doesn't really match up to what we were intending, but I don't have anything new to report on that. The municipal planners meeting was held between the municipal planners, the state of Maryland, and staff on October 26th. Another item that I had was, I know you guys were requesting information on the development that was going on. One of the items that we source that information is through the pipeline, and I'm working with GIS to have an updated layer, so we are working on that, and we're trying to get our interactive map back online. It's online, but hasn't been updated since last year, so we're trying to make data a little bit more easily accessible. And then the last item that I have, or second last item, is that the Frederick County Division of Planning and Permitting encourages the community to provide input on the feasibility of pedestrian and bicycle facilities between the city of Frederick, Newmarket, and Mount Airy to provide the community with more opportunities to access healthy recreation and active alternative transportation options. The public is invited to provide feedback in person from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Tuesday, November 7th at the Newmarket Middle School. The address is 125 West Main Street in Newmarket, or online by taking the survey. And I do have flyers in the back for anybody who's interested in that information.
All right.
And the last item is, I have no news to report on it, but there is just the map of the Pears Landing subdivision. That was the one that failed to get annexed into the town of Mount Airy. There hasn't been any change since, I think it was March this year. I just know that people were kind of concerned with the dirt getting moved around, but there is no changes.
Is that what we
Bill,
refer
that's the
to as
the
a regular property?
That's the regular
yeah.
property.
I gave
Borders
you,
Prospect?
yes, off of Prospect. Again, they were moving dirt out there. I went out and visited the site today. The entrance that they put in at the top of the hill actually gives good visibility in both directions.
That was one of our concerns.
Yeah. So again, it is moving forward right now. I don't think they have any building permits currently, and they haven't recorded the plat, from my understanding. This was a requirement that Frederick County had for them to even get their documentation recorded. They had to put in this access point. So they currently have a construction entrance, and they've done some rough grading, which I'm sure they still have to stabilize, et cetera.
Justin, is there a proposed number of units?
It's a total of 4 units, as your plan that I gave you shows,
Okay.
4 lots.
Okay.
And like I said, there hasn't been any changes. I know that there was still some stormwater review that needed to be done. There was something with the health department, and the forest resources was also a different issue that they had.
Yeah, that possible runoff was a concern we had because simply of the slope of the land and all that's above the Westridge development, that whole side of it. Okay. Any questions for Justin?
I just have one question. On this map, it shows no further subdivision unless rezoned. What does it need to be rezoned to for further subdivision?
From my understanding, that property was subdivided already, so in order to get re-subdivided from that, I think there's a remainder lot on that parcel, so I think in order to subdivide that, there would need to be rezoned to a more dense zone.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Right, and they couldn't rezone that property because they don't have road frontage to support that subdivision of that remainder.
Okay. All right, anything else for Justin? All right, thank you, sir. Okay, we ready for the green tree pattern book?
Yeah, I will say that I printed out Ralph's comments that he sent out to everybody today about the green tree, and he pretty much hit on a lot of the concerns I had as well. So I applaud Ralph for his diligence in writing this up. So I think if we just go in and look at item number 5 and move down from there, I think number 4 and number 4 was addressed by both Justin and Hannah. So I would open it up to planning commission members to provide any feedback they might have gotten when they looked at the pattern book to other commission members, and also the owner of the property, Frank Potapan, who's here as well.
Should we read Ralph's comment for the record?
We can read it for word if you want. I mean, it's really up to you, or you can summarize it in your own comments.
I'd like Frank to give us an intro to the whole Green Tree Village concept at some point. Would you want to hear that first, or you want to go ahead and summarize the points that Ralph?
I'd like to hear from Frank first, and then we can have the
That's
Q&A.
what I was thinking.
How's that sound to everybody?
All right, Frank, is that okay with you? Give us an overview of the intent and the objectives that you had for that property, and how you feel about the submitted plan.
Okay. So Green Tree is a property I've owned for approximately 20 years. I've been working with VAMWAR and the town staff and elected officials over 20 years, and there's been a number of different renditions and ideas, and from condos and multi-story structures with retail on the first floor to where we are today. Our original sketch plan that we submitted showed all townhouse units on the property, and going through, working with the council, working through our public meetings, and getting feedback from community. We talked a lot about house type, the commercial component to it, which is required under the zoning. And we ended up with the plan we currently have, which shows townhouses, some villas, and 5 single-family homes. And the intent with the single-family homes was that they would face Main Street. So as you came down Main Street, Main Street still had that same curb appeal, Main Street extended as the rest of Main Street. And it wasn't, you weren't looking at the back of townhouses or villas as you progress down or north on Main Street. I've been working with Vanmar and for the engineering, the sketches that and elevations for the residential component that we show in our pattern book is a local regional builder who we've worked with in the past. And I've talked to John about he'd like to see some additional elements or details to some of those elevations, which, as I talked to my contact at this company, and he said, we're willing to give more information, but we like to try and be careful on how much we put out in public domain, because some of the stuff is their proprietary, their design elements, their components, kind of like, Pepsi and Coke want to keep their formula secret. But, we can work with them. He said he'd be more than happy to work with us and the town on revising and for more detail and information on those. They would, the same builder would be, has an interest in all three components to the project. So the townhouses, the villas, and the single-family homes. So it wouldn't be 2 or 3 different builders, it'd be one builder. The commercial, I contracted with a architectural firm out of Frederick. They came up with a schematic for a commercial elevation concept to kind of what we would see for a potential commercial building on that corner. And we've been working with the town and the county on addressing their comments as they've come back. But that's kind of where we are today.
Okay. Any questions for Frank? Okay. Are there any town residents in the audience who want to make a comment, ask a question, whatever?
I'd like to make a comment, Madam, sir.
All right, let's get you to
Yeah, no problem. I just want
microphone.
to say any citizens, town residents first that would like to. Okay. Since I'm elected, it's got to be the citizens first and then.
You're on your own.
I don't know if that's good or bad. But my name's Carl Munder. I live at 2002 Fieldbrook Lane. I'm elected member of the town council, but I'm speaking as a citizen tonight because my comments have been addressed previously. My comments for the pattern book are basically 2 types, more of edits for the pattern book and then general comments related to the development that is perceived going on there, just maybe some fine tuning. For the editorial on the pattern book, the pattern book itself includes some average and anticipated sizes of housing units for all the descriptions in there on pages 6 through 8. They also have descriptions of, the parking spaces that they're anticipating there, the building setback lines, and the driveway lengths. Unfortunately, it's not consistent throughout each described type of the townhomes, villas, or single-family. When I say consistent, I mean it's those type of requirements are not listed in each description. Like some of them have the driveways, the building restriction lines for like the villas or the townhomes, but the villas might be lacking those, or the single-family homes might be lacking those descriptions on pages 6 through 8 related to the building restriction lines, the driveways, and everything else.
I'm sorry, Carl, are you talking about this pattern book or the code?
No,
This one.
yeah, the pattern book. Sorry, hold on, let me grab my one with the notes on.
Thank you.
Yeah, like on page 6, it's got, it basically lists the requirements for the townhomes. It's got the sizes of the townhomes, the maximum height that may not exceed 40 foot, the groupings, all the things that the pattern book is supposed to include. And then it has, you know, the building restriction lines, the length of the driveways, and the, you know, the potential number of parking spaces listed there. Like on page 7, it has, under villas, it has some of that information, but it's lacking, you know, like the building restriction lines that you would find on the lots or the villas and things of that nature. I'm just looking for consistency throughout the descriptions. And same thing under the single-family homes. The single-family homes does not list, description on page 8 does not list any of the building restriction lines, the length of the driveways and things of that on these pages. If you go back to page 11, under building and parking setbacks in the first column, some of that is listed for the other descriptions of the housing units, but not everything. It's not consistent. It leaves people guessing what some of the restrictions will be, what the driveway's length will be. I would just like to see more consistency throughout, listed in both, what they will be in both, because if I'm understanding the mixed use category properly, the pattern book is what's setting the setbacks, the parking, the road widths, the driveway widths, the driveway lengths. So I'm looking for consistency that throughout this book to make sure that everything matches properly. I mean, I can talk to Mr. Podentan more if he needs further clarification on that. On the design concerns and requirements on this for the development in general, some are general. I would like to see some are more site-specific or things. I would just like to make sure that upon planning for this, that there's enough electrical service being put into the community to allow for the inclusion of a dedicated spot on the housing unit electrical service panel for a 240-volt electric vehicle charger that could go in later at the homeowner's discretion, just to make sure that it's there if need be in the panel, like a dryer outlet or a voltage or a breaker there. So that's more, that should be addressed now more so than being concerned with it later.
That's a code
Requirement.
In the garage, it's required that we at least rough in for it.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I thought they changed that this year, but I wasn't sure. So I just wanted to make sure it was included for that.
Both aware.
Okay. It's mentioned that Mr. Breeding has talked to the developer about the facades of the townhomes, and it's like proprietary information. I would just like to also see some more variation in the front of the facades, I guess I want to say. Upon looking on that, upon what's in the pattern book, they're not bad, but I think of talking with Mr. Breeding, some of them had similar characteristics that were right next to one another. It just didn't fit right for me or feel right. But as it was indicated, it's proprietary information. Those things can change. So I get that not every little detail's included, but just get it out there now so it can be designed for in the final plans later, more so. I mentioned the facades, maybe also, again, variety of front entry doors in the house groupings, the townhomes and the villas to add variety to it. But also, again, that sounds like it's probably proprietary information for the builder. So just make sure the builder is aware that that would be favorable for the development, that variety of entry doors and different window styles are offered. Under the green initiative portion, I believe on page 11, I'm not sure. I would just like to see wording added to it. I think it's almost there. But something where every effort will be taken to preserve trees on site as best as can be. I know that's kind of a given, but I'm more concerned for the trees that are east of the high tension lines on that lot. Going down there now kind of blocks the view of the tension lines and the towers, which is okay. I know that some of them will have to be taken down according to the plan. I was just trying to figure out from the site plan exactly the amount that will be removed and preserved on site. Because I believe the more trees that remain on the east side of the tension lines kind of makes the development look better, because it hides the tension line from Main Street, everybody else's view, including the residents of the future residents of the development. And let's see, last one, I know the town does have a kind of a dark sky lighting code or dark sky amenities in the streetlights. I would like to potentially see, without changing town code or trying to, better dark sky lighting attributes put into this development for the facades of the buildings and maybe the streetlights themselves. I like, at least what I would like to see put there is something going down 70, you look at the Linganore development by Oakdale High School and stuff, it seems very dark, but very inviting at the same time. I'm not sure if it's the color of the lighting, the height of the street lamps or what, or the type of lights that are there. They might just be pointing down more so than having the all open around like what we have around town here now. But a little bit more, I mean, dark sky lighting design features for the lights there would be nice too. I believe one of the things during the discussions were the amount of light that could potentially bleed off to the surrounding neighbors. So that's it.
All right. Portapan, any initial reactions to the points?
No, I mean,
What can be, it can be.
I mean, as far as the lighting goes, as Carl alluded, there is a lighting ordinance that is approved and
Yeah.
it's been in the code for Mount Airy for a number of years.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's kind of what we would work to, but if there's a modification to it that fits that criteria or a product out there, we'd be more than happy to look at it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Good. All right. Thanks, Carl.
You're welcome, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. All right. How you wish to proceed now?
Would you like to read Ralph's?
Sure. Let's do it.
Go for it.
Me?
Can county residents comment?
Yes. pl-
You asked for city residents before, which is why I didn't say anything.
Yeah, go ahead and come on. Introduce yourself and where you reside.
All right, my name is Lee McBride. I live at 4288 Candace Drive, so you can imagine why I might be interested in this.
Yes, exactly.
I heard what you reminded the Carroll County rep about letting you know when things were going on around Mount Airy. I would like the same kind of consideration given to county residents when y'all are doing stuff, right? I mean, this time I did actually, you know, the sign was out a whole week, I think, before this meeting. So I did get to see that. It was actually on Candace Drive instead of just on Main Street like it was the last time. I got something in the mail, I think on Tuesday or Wednesday, about the meeting tonight. And that I could come pick up the plans here. I noticed it was dated October the 3rd, the paper was. It wasn't mailed until the 23rd. So, you know, it would have been nice to have a little more lead time. So, the second thing is, from looking at the plans, it looks like For the commercial, just judging from the way the entrances look, it looks like any trucks coming in the commercial are expected to come down Candace Drive. Is that on purpose? So,
No, there's no intention. We worked with staff on developing 2 points of access for the property, one being on Main Street, second location on Candace. It wasn't designed to try and direct or influence.
okay, because I just noticed
Commercial traffic.
the radiuses are much bigger on Candace, which is what trucks like to have. And the one coming off of Main Street has a divider in the middle, which trucks do not like at all. So I was just wondering if that was on purpose or not, so.
There's been a lot of big trucks that have been flying down Candace Drive going in both directions.
But this will be more.
No, I
So-
know. I would beg you to please not have an exit out onto Candace Drive. I'd rather see you guys just go out onto Main Street. You know, or even if the entrance had to be like a Candace Drive type thing, like right at the very corner of Candace Drive, like right where the sign is there.
There's requirements by the state and the county for entrances being back so far. And again, this plan, we're not really criticizing the plan right now. I know a lot of people aren't happy about it, but we've already gotten to a preliminary pre-concept sketch plan. We're moving forward with the concept plan. This plan was approved by the town council to move forward to the next stage. So that entrance was part of the original pre-concept sketch plan that we've had multiple meetings on. We're past that point. We're now
Yes,
looking at.
I agree. And that is one of the things that I did not know about those meetings, right? So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
So if
Okay.
you received a letter this time, you would have received letters previously, and we put signs up in 3 different locations on this property for any meeting that's held.
For any meeting that's held,
Any meeting that's related to this project.
I see the town council meetings. I do not see any other meetings. It looked like y'all have had some planning meetings with public discussion,
Yes, we've had public hearings, public meetings.
so.
It's always been the property's been signed for any meeting related to this project. I'm the one that puts the signs up.
Okay,
So I'm not sure why you're saying you've never seen the signs or this is the first time you've seen the sign. And I send out the notifications to any adjoining property owner.
So I actually live near there, and I will say that sometimes people who live on Candace might just go out to Buffalo. So it's possible that they don't pass the property itself. So I do agree that the town needs to be better about advertising for any developments. But there are usually notifications on the website about upcoming meetings, just not on the town calendar for some reason.
so which one's the website?
Mount Airy
Town of Mount
MD.gov?
Airy.
Is it-
MontAiryMD.gov?
I believe that's what it
Okay.
is, yeah.
All right. And then the third question I have that maybe Barney can answer is, what's the difference between open space 1 and open space 2?
They're just different parcels. Open Space 1, both of them are more of a natural state. So they're not ball fields,
Right.
but.
I just noticed they were shaded different colors, and I could not
I think
figure
it's
out a
just-
rhyme or reason why.
I think it's just to show that there's 3 different open space parcels on this.
Okay.
And the larger is the orange shaded, and then you have the
Okay.
green.
All right,
Those are
so
the
it
two
doesn't
town-
really mean anything. Okay,
Is-
all right.
Sorry, is one to show that it's town maintained versus HOA maintained?
So 1 and 2 are to be maintained by the town, and the third one would be maintained by the HOA.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other public comment? Go ahead. Come on up. Introduce yourself.
Maureen Nichols, 4209 Candace Drive. So my question is, I looked through the pattern book, and I didn't see any pictures of what is the backside of the townhomes. So the backside of the townhomes is what's going to overlook my backyard, plus everybody exiting Christie Acres down Windridge. That's what they're going to see. So Can you describe that?
I don't know what their intention is to include a deck on each unit or not. I actually have a meeting in the next week or two with the builder, and I can ask them about that at that
Okay.
time. So, you know,
Is there any fencing requirement?
there's no fencing requirement, but there will be a specific fence detail that will be approved for the neighborhood.
So one of the things about the fence in this plan is that it's a black chain link vinyl fence, which,
No.
okay,
That, and I talked to John about that earlier today. The intention was to possibly use a black chain link fence across the top of the retaining wall, similar to what was used in Doc Fult's project.
Brittany Manor.
Brittany Manor.
Brittany Manor.
But the individual lots would be a specific, typically, we like to use either a white vinyl or a black wrought iron type design. And typically, it's no more than 4 feet. I know sometimes, I don't think we'd have an issue here, but on residential, single-family lots, you know, 4 foot doesn't qualify for if people put a pool in. So it has to be a larger, taller fence for that. But I don't anticipate anybody putting a pool in on a townhouse.
not on a townhouse. What about I didn't see anything landscape-wise except in the front of the buildings, like the front of the houses. I didn't know if there was a additional, like, a buffer landscape?
We're still working through some of the stormwater management, and there's gonna be some stormwater management facilities, bioretention structures that will go between and behind some of the buildings, so until we get our final stormwater management design completed, you know, then we can go into looking at some of those additional areas for landscaping.
So if this was something that the community wanted along that Candace Drive and behind the townhomes, is this something that we need to express now, or is it something that will come along later as far as the landscape plan, the final landscape plan?
Well, one of the reasons that this meeting and this topic was advertised, you know, was to reach out to say, if you have a concern, if you have some questions, if you want to make a comment, please come and share them with us.
That's what I'm sharing. We would like to have a visually appealing backdrop, if you will. Yeah.
All right?
Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. Anyone else? All right, and then you're next, sir.
I just need to mention something to Frank that Maureen,
Okay.
it's not my brain functioning on. I'd like to say
Yeah, I think it is, Barney. Can you make sure that's on? It should be on. No?
Doesn't sound like it.
Might have to hold it in. He's got you. He's got you. It should come.
You got it?
Yes. There we go.
Shuts off.
Right. My name is Ian Adams. I live at 6600 Windridge Road, so outside the town of Mount Airy, but directly across Candace Drive from this development. And one of my concerns is, it discussed townhome parking with 3 to 4 vehicles, depending on the townhouse garages, or single or double units. And while I realize this meets town code, I don't know if anybody's driven through Nottingham, dark night tonight, where it's raining and everything. There's an enormous amount of cars on the street. And this is a very similar parking plan. So I would ask, I think you want this place to be livable, safe, and something that the residents really want to live there, if you could find a way to provide more parking. And in addition to just residential parking concerns with multiple cars, and I mean, people are going to have a mower in their garage, a couple of bikes, all that stuff. They're not going to get 2 cars in a 2-car garage, and they're not going to get 1 car in a 1-car garage. It's just not going to happen. The other thing I see in a lot of neighborhoods similar to this is people maybe have 2 cars, and then one of the residents maybe works for a plumbing company or something where they have a company vehicle that they take home. These vehicles typically end up In this case, like on Candace Drive, they would end up parking out there because there wouldn't be room in the neighborhood. I see that a lot in Howard, Montgomery County, some areas of Carroll County. And I could just see a lot of work trucks being parked up, lined up Candace Drive along there. So if there's something you can do to handle some of those parking issues, I think that would be a great improvement for this development. Thank you.
All right, you, sir? Introduce yourself and tell us where you live and share your questions or concerns.
Yeah, my name is Stephen Goss. I live at 6629 Christie Acres Circle. And I'd just like to reiterate a point made by the gentleman earlier about the lighting. I would hope that you would be following the guidelines of the Illumination Engineering Society, the Dark Sky International Society, concerning the way to light these areas in a way that doesn't blot the stars out forever. I came here thinking I was moving to the country, and surprise, surprise, I didn't. I'm a professional astronomer. I really had hoped to be able to see more stars here. And I really have a concern about all that light going up at the end of my neighborhood, more than we already have. There are ways to mitigate the lighting safely. Thank you.
Okay. Any other resident comments?
Sorry, Bill. Chairman, Carl Munder again, 2002 Philbrook Lane. Maureen Nichols got my brain functioning on something. Reading through the pattern book earlier, it mentioned that the facades of it would be, of the townhomes and things, would be hardy plank siding or fiber cement. I just would like to make sure, verify that that includes the rear of the buildings too. They don't switch over to a vinyl. The pattern book wasn't clear on, as Maureen said, the back side of the townhomes. I never took into consideration the view of the backs of the townhomes for the people living on Candace and other areas. So it would be preferred, in my view, that it would be a hardy plank on the rear of the house also, because the paint looks nicer, it looks better, it lasts longer than the vinyl. I'm not sure about lasts longer, but at first glimpse, it looks nice. I'm not sure if that's, if builders of villas and townhomes do that. Yes, true. But just to verify that too, so people are kind of clear on if it can be presented, if it's not proprietary or anything of that nature. Thank you.
All right. Okay, any other citizen comments, concerns?
I'll say something else.
Okay, keep it short.
Charles Katsarubis again, 4250 Candace Drive. I was looking at this, I guess it's the backside, the schematic here. And shows like you have a huge parking lot that's just running right next to Candace Drive. And that's gonna run a lot of cars down, up and down Candace Drive. That's my big concern, that's all.
Okay.
Just to comment on that again, based on the size of the commercial space, the town code has a number of parking spots we're required to supply or include in that project, so.
That's right. Okay, all right. Okay, are we ready for Ralph's comments and so forth? Go ahead.
So Frank, was it your intent that the reason that there isn't extra parking for the townhomes was it your thought that they would be use this commercial lot for any guests?
No, I mean, our intention is that there's a two-car garage, and I agree with the comment that was made. Not everyone parks two cars in a two-car garage. But with that, also, the driveways are long enough that you can park two cars on the driveway as well. So in theory, you know, just between the driveway and the garage, there is 4 parking spots. Whether they're all utilized, that's another question. But it is designed for each unit to have at least four, each of the townhouses or villas to have 4 parking spots associated with that unit. And again, when you drive up and down Main Street, there's no parking on Main Street. Everyone on Main Street has a driveway that they either park on a driveway or a garage or a side street, or there might be some spots that there might be a rear, I'm not sure if there is a rear alley or not for any of the properties on Main Street, but I guess there could be a couple spots, but, so, I mean, there are spots that there aren't. And then we do have some pocket parking lot spots. So if somebody had a holiday party, there would be additional parking within the neighborhood for people to park.
Frank, is that parking, initial parking located around the pavilion area? If I'm looking at the map correctly, the side street parking there?
What about there is parking,
Parking for people that are having parties, is that parking located around where the pavilion is?
I think there's a couple different pocket locations for additional parking.
Anything?
I think one of the initial plans did have some off-street parking that was associated to the pavilion. This new plan doesn't show that anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely need that. Before we get into, do you want to read Ralph's thing and then we can all chime in?
Yeah, John, which were the comments that you said something about?
Well, a lot of mine were, and Frank brought them up, was concerned about the fencing behind the allowable fencing that's allowed in the community, right? So be it the townhouse, the villas, or the single families. I want to have some consistency
Right.
From that, and chain link fence is not what I want. You know, I want to see a white vinyl, or I want to see some type of extruded aluminum metal fence. And the height could be from 4 foot to 6 foot. The only worries is, you know, you create this, not a working community if you have a 6 foot vinyl fence everybody has. You know, so it's my backyard and I don't talk to my neighbor, which is, we're trying to create a walkability in our community by itself. So I'd rather see the wrought iron or extruded aluminum of some sort, metal fence.
And I did drive through the project, Brittany Manor today, and in that community, it appeared that they had several different fencing types that were, I don't know if their HOA documents weren't specific or limited, but it was pretty broad as far as the number of different white vinyls and black wrought iron style. And then there was the black chain link along the top of the retaining wall, but.
So my only concern about that, there's single-family homes, and yes, individual people might have it, but when this is a very congested community, I want to see some consistency, in my opinion. It's the planning commission's.
And I agree with
saying,
that.
I don't like that. I don't like having a 3-board fence up against a white vinyl fence. It
Can I
looks-
ask Barney a quick question?
Sure.
Across the top of a retaining wall, I know we've had discussions as far as
For sure.
fencing there, height of it, and type of it, because you said some fences, and chain link can be one of them, encourage or can promote or encourage little ones who like to climb. Is there, because what I would prefer to do is pick that fence and say, if it's the black or whatever, that's the one fence for the neighborhood. And because when I drove through Brittany Manor today, you had the chain link fence across the top of and then you had a wrought iron style fence tying into it. So when you looked into the backyard, sometimes you saw 2 or 3 different types of fence, because this neighbor put his fence in first, then this guy put it in, and then you had the chain link back here. So in one visual, you had 3 different fence types, basically for one backyard. So I would prefer, you know, if there's something that you're comfortable with as far as that meets your safety doesn't give you heartburn as far as the safety.
Yeah.
That be the fence that we say, this is the one approved fence for the neighborhood, and you don't have, a mishmash of product. And I guess, as a builder, I can pick out and look at a pretty picture and say, this is the fence, but it may not meet your criteria. And I think I'd like to work backwards from your criteria and say, okay, here's the fence that we're gonna use. It would be my preference.
So as far as on top of the retaining wall does have some
And we did lower that.
decent heights. It lowered some,
Yeah.
but there's still some
We
decent
lowered it
height there.
considerably, but it's
It
still about
concerns
20.
me, I know, but we have these retaining walls throughout town. We have them in Sterling Glen, we have them in Nottingham, different places. But the type of fence on there, a chain link fence, certainly something somebody can climb, whether you make it 4 feet or 8 feet tall. We want something that you can't climb so easily. You also want something solid, not something that you could pull the chain link up, those kind of things. So we wanted to make sure on top of the retaining wall for sure, there's something, good product. And I was working with Ron Thompson, I guess he's not here. But he's come up, I think, with a solution for that. So we can work with him to try to make that more of a standard throughout the development.
My question is, if we did white vinyl, who's gonna maintain that? Because that grows algae, then you've got the curb appeal or appearance of somebody's gotta power wash it, somebody's gotta clean it.
I definitely would not recommend vinyl on top of the retaining
Absolutely
wall.
not.
So,
Right.
so if you want to make them all the same, I don't
Okay.
think vinyl's the answer.
So Frank,
So
it
who's gonna
sounds like the
clean it?
town engineer would be willing to make some recommendations in that regard.
And again, I'd like to work backwards from what works for the town as far as giving them comfort as far as the safety concerns that we all have.
Good.
And then say, okay, there's one fence that's approved and it's this, and,
Right, again, so that would be really the planning commission making that determination based on Barney's recommendation.
his
As I'm recommending is the aluminum fencing, which I think the plan showed, the actual drawing plans shows the fence that I think is what we should be having, which is, either it's
I think the last plan does.
the last full set of plans, not the pattern book, but the plans, which you haven't seen yet because they're still going through review.
Okay.
But that plan shows the fence on top of the retaining wall, which is acceptable to me as a zoning administrator to be installed.
Okay.
That's the recommendation I'm giving to you as well.
All right, so the coordination is already underway.
Yeah.
my biggest thing with the fence is, and again, from someone who's cut grass and maintained lawns and properties before, you like to see something where, there's a little bit of it doesn't sit all the way on the ground. Because when you run your weed eater through, you get a nice clean cut where, the chain links that typically went all the way to the ground, you run your weed eater again around it, it chews up the line and, it makes it harder to maintain. And unfortunately, then you get people who say, oh, I'm not doing it. And next thing you know, it's, underneath the fence, it's a foot high.
The nice thing is that aluminum fencing is off the ground. Again, you're going to have posts, which you're going to
Right.
have with any fence.
Right.
So I think the plan that we have under review right now shows the right fence on the retaining wall, which then the fence that if an owner wants to put a fence in on their property, they'll have to meet that same standard of that type of fence, be it 4 foot tall or 6 foot tall, whatever you guys want to recommend in the pattern book.
Okay.
And maybe that detail needs to be part of the pattern book,
I would like to hear from the people who live near there on whether they would prefer 4 or 6 and something that's like, opaque or see-through or whatever. I would like to understand what the community would like to see there.
Yeah, I don't care.
We'd like to see what the aluminum looks like first before we make a decision.
I think most townhome owners would prefer a 6 foot. But the single-family homes or the villas might be different.
Most of the black, though, aren't like a privacy type fence. It's a see-through fence. The tall privacy fence are typically the white vinyl.
Or the old
And then you had,
stockade.
right, the stockade. And then you deal with, the issue you raised with, the discoloration of them and,
So what, I
Maintenance.
can't picture what you guys are talking about.
They look like wrought iron, usually.
More
Yeah,
vertical rods every 4 inches.
Every 4 inches and.
So somebody, like even a baby can't go through the 4 inch.
What about the top of it?
It'll have a top rail, have a bottom rail, and then
The top row would be flat.
Some of those have spikes on top of them. I think
They have different
the one that's on top of the retaining wall, I think, has the spikes. Because they're trying to discourage people trying to climb over top of it and falling off of a 40-foot retaining wall.
Are you gonna be able to outfit that though for a townhome? The townhome owner is not gonna want a see-through fence to their neighbors if they have a dog, if they wanna grill out, if they wanna do any of those things.
What makes a townhouse owner any different than a single-family home?
Well, there's a little bit more space between. You got a party wall with a townhome. You know, from speaking as a realtor who has to sell these things, you know, most people want those privacy fences.
And you could have two types of fences. You could have one just for the retaining walls and a separate one for the yards.
John, is there going to be another opportunity for public feedback and comment?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you want to, I mean, that's fine. I mean, I think, you know, ultimately you have to make the final decision on what you want to see.
I first wanted to give any members of the public who had an opinion, you know, we'd like to hear what it is, so we have that feedback before we decide. I don't think it'll be anything out of the ordinary, but the question is, I mean, we've already seen the power and the value of requesting public feedback and getting it. You know, we saw that at the 2 Legion events. Okay, all right, very good. Okay. Well then, Planning Commission, let's move on to the comments and the questions and suggestions that Ralph left us, starting with 5A Commercial Building. Heather, would you like to read that, share it with us, and see if there's any reaction to that?
The east-facing elevation and parking area depicts both a patio on the northern end of the building and a dedicated drive-through lane with a call box that isn't depicted on the plans. Given that the outdoor eating patio is adjacent to the vehicle queue for the drive-through function, would it be more amenable to that dining to relocate the patio to the west side of that northern end of the building? This would separate outdoor dining from idling cars and also enable diners to enjoy sunsets on the west side.
I mean, the drive-through, again, I required them to give a dedicated drive-through lane because the initial plan, they had it going through the parking lot, which doesn't work. The outside dining area, I mean, so if you have a business, you want to have your dining area where your business is. And if your drive-through is part of the business, you don't want to have your dining on the other side of the building facing the west side. I mean, this is, if anything, I can see us requiring some type of screening between the seating area and the drive-through pickup lane. Something, some kind of vinyl fencing, yeah.
Kind of what Starbucks has, the little.
Something, but yeah, Ralph's great, but this comment I didn't like.
That's all right. I mean, There
Well,
are
I'm not-
multiple
I'm not-
members of the Planning Commission.
Right, what's that again?
If there are multiple members of the Planning Commission, we want to hear all perspectives.
Well, and it's great. I mean, not to say that they can't create some kind of outdoor seating area that might be, that somebody wants to sit there and watch the sunset, man, you put a picnic table out there, you know? Again, I mean, it's a great thought.
Okay,
Continue.
all right. Go ahead.
Okay. The location and enclosure of the proposed dumpster next to the Candace Drive entrance is a concern as far as visibility of that enclosure and aesthetics for those along Candace and the existing county residents to the north. Is there a better location to hide that necessary facility?
I can field that one as well. So there will be Class A screening and a surround around there, so you won't even be able to see the dumpsters. It'll look like a separate building. I mean, ultimately, we could potentially even require a roof over top of it to sort of make it look more like a structure. Again, so I think there'll be vegetation around that as well.
All right. And last point, Heather?
The east elevation shows some shrubbery along the storefronts, whereas the west elevation shows none. The book on page 12 states that a landscaping design is included with the concept plan. Ralph would enjoy seeing that plan.
Okay.
Again, some of those comments will definitely be addressed when a site plan comes in for the commercial project. You know, we don't know exactly what, you know, we have a vision of what we would build there, but we've been contacted by a couple different people. So that building may change a little bit based on, you know, the needs for that building.
Well, and again, I can field that question too. So these plans do not show the landscaping layout. Our plans that we're reviewing in-house does show landscaping, so that's an
All right.
easy answer on that one.
Okay. All right. Who would like to read and share Ralph's comments on 5B, residential units?
I can read it.
Okay. Thanks, Martina.
Sure. Townhomes, page 6 states that the elevations will eliminate a single line frontage, yet the illustration on page 6 depicts the first floor stone facade as being a straight line across the garage doors and recessed entries. So this appears to be in conflict with the stated design. Please explain. And then it goes on.
Okay, illustration on page 6.
And I did bring this to Frank's attention previously as well. So when you look at the masonry that's on the lower section where the garage doors are, they're wanting to see some type of changing materials, not all a giant brick wall. We want to have some variations in that. And to Carl's point, you know, possibly variations on the doors. If it's a 3-panel light or a 6-panel light or, you know, an octagon on the door, I think. And then also having the elevations on 6, you can see that there's some similarities between elevations. Although if you look at them, they are a little different. But I don't really like to see the bump outs on adjoining each other. But again, that's really a decision you guys have to make.
Okay. All right. Okay.
But I agree with Ralph with, you know, different types of masonry materials on the lower section.
Okay.
Okay, you want me to go on?
Yeah.
Okay. Townhomes, page 6 states, the proposed townhome design sets the building restriction lines at 25 feet front BRL and 30 feet rear BRL. This provides a 25-foot-long driveway. The 24-foot driveway will limit the driveways. This statement refers to 2 different lengths of driveways. Please explain.
And I would think that's going to be the engineer, but ultimately our town code requires we have 20-foot clear from the front of the building to the edge of the sidewalk. So a standard vehicle can park in the driveway without impeding the sidewalk for walkability. And the BRLs, I think, were mentioned earlier through Carl's comments. So I think they need to be clarified. If you look at the plans, you can see the BRLs for the different areas, and they should be all 25.
Okay.
From edge of property line to the front of the building.
All right.
So they should all be 25. Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
Single-family homes, 5 each. There are 3 designs for the 5 single-family homes planned to face North Main Street. The book states that these homes will not be built until sold. How will the developer ensure that the 5 homes will be mixed and separated among those 3 possible designs? The question is driven by a concern that those 5 homes could be built as all one design. Worst case, or 2 adjacent homes have the same design, less desired.
That's you, Frank.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not uncommon
Right.
to have 2 houses that are very similar in footprint next door to each other, but the elevations change to create that different curb appeal, similar to the new houses that were built up on, what's that?
Park Avenue, right.
There's 3 in a row there that are very similar in design. And even if you drive through Nottingham and Sterling Glen, there are house types that are the same house type next door to each other. But one house might have a brick front, one house has a siding front with a full porch, one has dormers on it, one has, you know, one's a corner unit, so it has a side-load garage. You know, even though they're the same house type. And the other thing too, we definitely do not allow, you can't put, you know, a white house next to a white house next to a white house.
Right.
It's gotta be, we do, set up a schedule working with the builder on exterior finishes as far as colors.
Good.
One thing I probably will guarantee is the roof color will probably be the same. They don't, and I've never been a fan of that, but some of the older houses, older townhouse neighborhoods that were built like in the 70s and 80s, you'll see where there's a black roof and a brown roof and a green roof all in the same stick. And I think that looks a little hokey, a little contrived, a little Disney World-ish. So I could pretty much guarantee it'll probably be just one, and probably a black or a medium gray.
That seems to be more common these days anyway.
Yeah,
Kind of like wearing a blue sports coat. It never goes out of style.
right.
Heather?
I think what Ralph's concern might be, I don't want to speak on his behalf, but you know, a lot of times when you're choosing a home and you're selecting a different elevation, one might cost more than another. So I guess maybe his concern is that, let's just say for the sake of argument, you know, that the first house has the cheapest elevation, and so maybe like 4 out of the 5 choose the cheaper elevation because home prices are skyrocketing, right? I think, so how do you make sure that they're differentiated other than color? Is it okay to have 4 houses of the exact same elevation next to each other?
No.
Okay,
No.
all right, thanks.
But, I mean, again, and I'll refer to Nottingham and Sterling Glen because I'm somewhat familiar with those. We did have, and you could have a house, exact same house next door to each other, but one might have a $15,000 or $20,000 elevation upgrade versus the house next to it because it has a full porch and it has dormers on it and it has, you know, a feature window above the front door versus just a 3.0, 5.0 window above the front door.
Okay.
Or they might have a custom front door, you know. There's you know, a lot of these smaller craftsman style houses, you see different style front doors where, you know, some have just a little bit of light in it. Some of them are 2/3 light. People have different viewpoints on that. Some people don't like it because they say that too much glass on the front door violates their privacy. They only like but some people like that. They think it's more inviting, you know,
Yeah.
and they like to be able to look out. And the amount of light that comes in through the foyer, it's not as dark in the foyer. So, I mean, everyone's got an opinion.
Okay.
But no, we don't want the same house, the same color, the same elevation next door to each other where it looks like, you know, we showed up and just dropped 5 houses in a row.
Well, because even when I look at the elevations on number 9, there's only 3 different types of houses here. One is a hardy plank, one is a brick. One is hardy plank and a brick. One has a full porch, one has a porch. There's again, only 3 types I see here. It's just the finishes of those types.
But there's only 5 houses, right?
There's only 5 houses.
Yeah.
5 single families.
Family, so I mean,
Yep.
you're splitting hairs over nothing.
It's Ralph's comments, but yeah.
Again, we don't want it to look like it's the same house that
But
was
it's
just
cookie cutter, yeah.
came out of, got extruded and boom, popped down there.
Yep. Good point. We appreciate that. Cool. All right.
Wait, Brian.
Do you mind if I interrupt the?
Yeah.
Okay. Frank, since we're talking about those single families, is it the backyards, the side yard outside the garage, and it's kind of that little footprint that's behind it? Because I see the garage enters the back of the house. The front of the house faces Main Street, and there's like a little like glass, you know, looks like maybe a sliding door that when you're walking through the garage, maybe like it's a breezeway going into the house. Is that the backyard?
Yes.
Okay, so the backyard's actually the side of the house, but kind of half of the,
The backyard's where the garage is located.
and then there's that sliding door off to the, I mean, at least in this elevation, the sliding door would be off to the right, and it would, you know, and it's like, yeah, so that, their yard is essentially gonna be that, like, half of the house footprint and then the garage wall.
Correct.
Okay.
So it's like a mudroom, in a
I
sense?
don't know exactly how the interior footprint is laid out on that house. We're asked to provide typical elevations of what we see there.
I'm just wondering, like, as far as fencing for that particular home, we talked about townhomes, and I think Maureen and I could probably, you know, like, how they could put a fence around the side of their house, but it's only gonna be the side of their house because they don't have an actual backyard, it's a garage.
Well, there will be a little backyard in the rear, adjacent to the garage.
Yeah, it looks like the garage is gonna be,
21.
they're gonna be set this way, and
Yeah.
then that backyard's gonna be kind of that area there.
And I don't think that elevation, that side elevation with garage and rear is, I don't think we'll even see that on this property. If you look at the size of the house in relationship to the garage, if you go to the plan, that the garage is directly attached to the house.
It is.
So I see more of the rear elevation with garage is what we're probably gonna see on majority of these houses. I don't see the breezeway with the super deep 30-foot garage, you know, and again, some of the property lines on here, some of those houses, the one closest to the church has a very long driveway, if you look at it. I mean,
Has a very long driveway.
I mean, they could they could rent parking there.
Yeah, they
for the
could rent
neighborhood.
parking there, that's where the party people park.
They're the ones that are having the party, I guess, but.
I see a bunch of white tricycles in there and chalk on the driveway to that out.
It's a daycare, they need a special exception.
Okay, I'll let them know.
Okay, who would like to share 5C, open space?
I can read it.
Okay. Well, they do.
Martina, did you finish with all of yours?
Well, the last point he makes was the black vinyl cover chain link, and we just talked about that, so okay, we can skip that.
All righty.
All right, open space.
Open space. Page 10 delineates the 2 parcels proposed for the town and the 3rd parcel to be held under HOA management. Sheet number 16 of 20 at the rear of the book shows the 2 parcels proposed for town ownership and maintenance.
Oh, thank you.
Dated October,
It's on
October
it's
3rd.
this one. It's this one.
October 3rd, is that what yours
It
is
says
dated?
16 of 20.
Down there,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay, where was I? So,
So I can answer that. And his question's very vague, I guess, unless we're going into.
we're not
space-
done.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
I
my
was gonna
bad.
ask the bulleted
My bad.
questions.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I was just giving you the background.
Yep.
So for open space number 1, which I'm not sure which one that is. On the
It's the
sheet
green
here.
one.
The green one, okay. There is a portion of the walking trail within the proposed parcel under the town's ownership and another section of that trail outside the parcel. Does this invite issues or problems with maintaining that entire trail for those residents?
It's actually the brown area, which is that natural open space towards the rear of the property.
Okay.
And I see where he's talking about where it's not shaded brown. That probably is just a drafting error, possibly, because we can't build on somebody else's adjacent property. And of course, through the right-of-way with the electrical power lines, that's still his property, or he has an easement across that property. So we would still be maintaining that. Isn't that correct, Barney?
Yeah, so starting at the bottom court of the development, there's that short piece that goes straight north. That's through the HOA's stormwater management parcel. And then it turns at an angle, goes through the BG&E power lines parcel. And then it goes into the open space 1 parcel. That's the long path. And we would have, where we don't have, it's not our parcel, we would have a deed of easement. So we would have an easement through those parcels to be able to maintain it. And they do, one of his bullets also talks about the grading, the grades there. That would be graded so that that's a walkable path, not walking on an angle.
What kind of material is the path going to be?
So it's more of a stone path. Through the wetlands, they have a special thing that helps contain that stone so it doesn't get washed away. But that's only going through parcel 2, the open space parcel 2 that heads towards Summit Ridge through the dark.
The brown?
No, through the dark gray
Oh, okay.
area.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So there's a path that connects to the end of Scotch Heather,
Correct.
and that's the portion that goes through the wetlands.
There's gonna be an access for them to drive from Scotts Heather into that development?
No, there'll be no vehicular access.
No,
Yeah, we said it would just be a pedestrian access.
yeah.
It must be like a little bridge type thing that cross over.
Yeah, more of just walking down through the wetlands, yeah.
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 That's been a
Right-
request for the
As of
people
right now,
Scotts
unless the
Heather
state
for
requires it,
ever.
I don't think it's including a boardwalk, if you would, like that was built in Nottingham.
So this pathway from the gray to the brown is just for like maintenance access, it's not really a walking path?
It is a walking path.
It's a walking path.
So the community could walk around
Yes.
the.
And you'll see as you enter the brown and go about, I don't know, 100 feet maybe, there's another path that heads off to the left, it joins up to the existing path between Sterling Glen and Summit Ridge.
Okay, and then I'll just ask, we kind of touched upon it, but I'll ask his last questions, whether there are any liability, maintenance, or other challenges for the town regarding the wetland areas.
There's always maintenance with a path, but
Liability
that's mostly a
issues?
natural state, and I don't see it changing much.
Right.
So probably very little maintenance.
Okay. Do you want me to read open space too?
Sure.
This area is closer to the residential dwellings and is adjacent to the proposed sports court, open space number 2. It appears to have access from the cul-de-sac. It does not appear to be connected to the proposed trail or have any recreational potential. I would suggest that this proposed space be retained by the HOA instead of being deeded to the town. This would make the proposed HOA area in green to become contiguous around the residential areas, avoid issues with 2 different grounds maintenance plans around the sports court and the rest of the HOA open space, and generally simplify the question as to who cuts the grass on the west side of that cul-de-sac and sports court.
I can answer that one too. So again, Scotch Heather, there's actually an extended right-of-way beyond the asphalt that goes down to where the dark gray begins of that parcel. So it would actually be connected to the town's parcel right there. And then we would have deed of easement through the power lines parcel. That would connect us both ways. And then, so there's connection there. Also, the brown parcel, just so you know, if you look at the south side of it, you'll see a long parcel that kind of heads off to the left. The town owns that as well. That heads to the Summit Ridge soccer field. So this is more or less connecting a lot of those wooded and wetland areas that the town owns already. It would just be a continuation of that. So there is benefit in the town owning those.
Do you know what the approximate, like, mileage is of this trail, or quarter of a mile?
Maybe 800, no, over 1,000 feet from the end of the court to the other end of the long portion. Maybe another 600 feet that goes to the existing trail, and another 300 feet to Scotch Heather,
Thanks.
roughly. That's just eyeballing it.
All right. Any other comments or questions about this area and the development? Frank, thanks for joining us tonight. Thank you. We appreciate your feedback. Okay. And let's move on to master plan.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
can we also make comments besides Ralph's?
No.
I thought we were just doing routes. Before we move on. Anybody else first?
Go for it.
Okay. So I think we were talking about the green initiatives section. I think you just wanted to see when the commercial comes through that it talks about EV being put into the commercial section as well, available spots, and then just highlight native species being used for the landscaping under that as
I believe
well.
that was a comment that we received back from planning.
Okay.
In our last review.
Yep, and that's been changed on the plans that we're reviewing.
Okay. And then, I don't know if it was gonna be there, but I see the sports court and the pavilion, but there was no plans for a playground. Is that correct?
And we, you know, somewhere in that general area, there will probably be some type of jungle gym, playground, swing set.
Pickleball. Falls in the other place.
That's the other spot.
That's the pickleball.
Okay.
That's the hot item now, isn't it?
Okay.
I have a friend who broke a wrist 2 weeks ago playing pickleball, so beware.
Okay. And then the last thing is kind of on the appeal and the way the buildings are set up. Something I've been thinking about, and for any mixed-use projects we have, I know in this it talks about how this is kind of the gateway to our downtown, right? You know, the way the buildings are designed and all, I mean, the commercial looks pretty good. The residentials look kind of vanilla. I kind of would like to see any mixed use that's related to our downtown pull on some of the older buildings of our downtown. Look at the Queen Anne style, Victorian, you know, neoclassical, Romanesque buildings, these brick buildings, the downtowns. If you look at that nice quilt up there, all those buildings that are really the highlight of the older part of our town, try to draw inspiration from those in the designs, you know. Perfect example that those 5 single families, maybe they can have some Queen Anne or Victorian style to them to match some of the older ones that are along that main street. And the commercial buildings. Make it look like, you know, an 1890s railroad town, right? Because that's the continuation along these buildings here, like our town hall looks like. Something more ornamental, a little more like that. I would love to see that in any of the mixed uses that are related to our downtown, to try to combine it all.
And I think I had this conversation maybe with John or, you know, a townhouse unit that's 22 foot wide, which is wider than you know, most townhouse units, a lot of times you see are 20 foot wide. 22, it's amazing what it does to second floor bedrooms when you get that extra 2 feet in a townhouse. But as far as the facade goes, you know, we can do a lot to that facade. So we can give it a very traditional look. We can give it, you know, a lot of the design trends in the past, I'll say 5 to 8 years, have been more of that transitional, farmhousey, black window, you know. And if that's not the look that the Planning Commission envisions for that, we can backpedal and pull up some product that has more of a traditional curb appeal than that transitional design curb or streetscape.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, there's only so much, you know, the floor plan's not gonna change, but you can change those exteriors based on, again, some of the design criteria or architectural style that we can give him direction on. And if we wanna, you know, pull back from, you know, the single family show more of a traditional cottage type architecture than the townhouse unit that's depicted in the, and if that's, you'd like to see that more traditional look, we can work on maybe getting a couple elevations of that we can share with you and say, yeah, I like that better, or okay?
Yeah, I would like to see more harmonious with the existing. We're not a transition kind of community. This is a down home feel, and we need to maintain that with the town.
As far as, I'd have to get back to you on that as far as, I've never worked with this builder before on his villa product. I've worked before with him on single families in his townhouse product. So I can ask him, how many. And again, there's back in the day, 25, 30 years ago, we used to put a bay window on the front or a box bay or, were design elements that we used a lot back then. In the past 15 or 20 years, we've done a lot with porches, just a small front porch to one that's 3/4 across the front to one that goes all the way across the front to one that wraps and goes back to side. Unfortunately, on narrower lots, the side return porch doesn't typically work. It's too close to the property line, but, so, yeah. I'll ask him about that as well.
Are the villas supposed to be a senior, or are they appealing to seniors, not age restricted?
They're not age restricted, but I think some of the comments that came back going through the process with the council and public hearing process was, especially the council wanted to see product that was inviting not just to younger generation, but where somebody who has kids who live in the Mount Airy area want to be closer to their kids. So the villa product, which has first floor master, could be very appealing to them. It's not restricted to, someone who's 37 years old and has a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old could buy that house.
Right.
If they wanted to, but it would definitely be more appealing to someone more of my age.
And I think you answered this question before, but this is strictly to sell to families and not to a corporation to rent out. Okay.
And it's interesting you asked that question because I have a son who works in the residential construction in Houston, Texas. And I haven't seen that much in the Maryland marketplace, but in Houston, that's a huge component of new construction now. Especially with the change in interest rates, change in affordability as far as purchase. He works for a large mechanical contractor, and they're doing a lot of where somebody's coming in, building the whole community out for rent.
Right.
But no, that's not my intention. Never has been.
Thank you. Okay.
That's not, and the builder I've worked with I'm not sure they even do that type of product.
Okay.
Frank, do you mind sitting at the table so that when they're asking these questions? I'm sorry. And
I
Steve,
thought my voice was loud enough, but
I actually turned the microphone over here because,
okay.
Steve, did you get all your questions answered? Okay.
I would also like to see with the villas, the same thing with the town that we are speaking about with the townhouses. The triangles up front are just, sorry. I would like to see, right, very vanilla, thank you. I would also like to see more offsets of these as well.
There will be an offset on each unit, so there will never be 2 units that are married up next to each other.
Okay.
There will always be some type of offset that gives, and unfortunately, in 2 dimensions, sometimes that's hard to depict and show. But yeah, there will always be some variation to that.
Is there also a plan for porches or anything with the villas? Like Wildwood has, some have porches, some have the walk-ups. Those are very appealing also.
I'd have to ask him get more detail on the villa product that they have. like I said, I've never worked with them directly on their villa product, so I'm not that familiar with it. But I can ask that question
Yeah.
based on, elevation, architectural details, and then also being more of a traditional flair than a transitional type architecture.
I would also like to see what a 360 view of what the front and back and sides of each structure will be. Because this is just giving us front facing. I'd like to see what the rear facing is going to be on the back of that as well.
Frank, one other question is with the different housing types that you have here that have been proposed, is there a range of cost so that
There will be varying price points within the community. The townhouse will probably be the lower price of the three products. Single family will be the highest price of the three products. The villa requires a little bit wider footprint. So, the cost to build that, the villa, the footprint for a villa product, because you have first floor living, gets wider, gets a little bit deeper. So hence cost of construction gets a little more expensive on those.
but at least there'll be options, there'll be choices.
And again, that was, I think we talked about that, when we talked about the variation in product was, first of all, appeal to different age groups. But the other question was also, I believe, discussed, price point, economics, we'll be able to hit multiple levels as far as people who can qualify and afford to buy the different products.
What would the depth be between the end of the garage to the front door? What's that on the villas? Because that's that's quite a setback. I mean, it looks like it's quite a setback.
They're usually somewhere about 10 feet, typically. I don't have a dimension on that, so I'd have to get that from them as well.
Is there a possibility that, like, on the end units, the doors could be on the opposite sides as well versus having the garages married together versus just giving some separation of it with the end units, the doors being on the outside where the garages are matched together kind of deal, and having that flip.
Well, I see on elevation number 7, page 7, like you're saying, the far right villa has the door on the far right, and then the next, no, I guess no,
No,
they're on the left,
they're all on the
left, and then
insides.
one on the right.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand what you're saying.
One thing, you wouldn't put the two garages next, at least in this elevation, you wouldn't put the two garages next door to each other because you would have those return roofs. You don't want the water to dump into a V and then
Yeah.
you have a huge amount of water dump into a small area, into a single gutter that creates especially being right over top of your front sidewalk, creates havoc in the winter.
Yeah, absolutely. You got ice dams.
All right. Any other comments or feedback for Frank?
Mr. Chair, just one more. It'll be quick, and don't worry, it's just mission of binary.
Carl, and quick?
No, not yet. Just the different variations got me thinking, looking particularly at the villas. I'm not sure if there's availability to add different roof lines to it too between the houses. I know the more changes or to a particular style, the more money it costs to build. But say the villa, if it was here, just looks like one big flat roof. I was looking for more of a, higher, lower, add some variation to the roof line.
Same with the
Front,
front.
kind of like the fronts varied, make the roof lines of the townhomes and villas a little bit varied, so it just doesn't look like
One flat roof.
roof.
All right, all good points.
Can I ask a question about the drive-through?
Okay.
So Ralph mentioned in his comments, he wasn't sure if there was going to be, like an ordering, a marquee place, where you have to pull up and order. Is that going to be?
So that order board will actually be out in the lane. So when you drive in that lane, it'll be out there is where the board will be.
Okay.
Because there's no room between the drive-through window and the actual entrance to be able to have that. So that order board will be out along that drive-through lane that's there.
Okay, and then I don't know how far away the closest homes are from that window, but I'm just wondering about potential noise pollution from that drive-through.
It's actually going to be right, basically almost across from the commercial property along Main Street. It's a commercially zoned property as well.
Okay.
So it's somewhere close to the.
Right, vacant, right.
Okay.
The other thing too, just full disclosure, there's nothing that says that there's going to be, a coffee shop or that goes in there. We just planned so that if by chance we had a tenant who came along who said, I love the location, but I need a drive-through, whether it's a coffee shop, whether it's a, dry cleaners got to be pretty popular as far as drive-throughs during COVID. I mean, it's amazing how many of the old, when you drive around and you look, how many of the old sticks and bricks bank buildings that had drive-throughs are now coffee shops or dry cleaners or, and people took advantage of the drive-throughs that were created for the bank usage.
We used to have a drive-through dry cleaner, but that moved. And that was amazing.
Yeah, I know a couple of people who used it. They loved it. You pulled up, you gave them your card, charged it, and they came out and hung the stuff right in your
Yes,
back
they
seat
opened the
for
back
you.
door.
And it was great if you had little kids, you didn't have to get them out of the car seat. Yeah, I know several people who love them just for
I love that.
that feature. But, so, just full disclosure, there's no, I've had a bunch of different calls from a bunch of different types of potential tenants, but it's not to say that that's definitely going to be a food service. And it's not going to be a McDonald's, I think.
Right, our code.
One person asked for a Panera Bread at one point.
Right, our code restricts that. There's a certain ratio of, again, the MXDCC or MXUCC has restrictions for the drive-through. It can't be a McDonald's. It can't be, again, it comes down to a ratio. So
It can be a coffee shop, but it can't be a fast food type.
correct.
Dry
establishment.
cleaners.
It could be a dry cleaners.
Yeah. But again, when we started with staff, that was, and again, we did not show a separate dedicated lane for that. And John, from his previous experience with Westminster, was very quick and adamant to say, oh, that's not going to work. And I think the case in point you used was Starbucks on 140, which backs up onto 140 now is a
And the
nightmare.
Chick-fil-A in the shopping center is another one that's a mess.
Well, at least Chick-fil-A does double, and in Texas, they do a triple drive-through. So
Everything's bigger in Texas.
that's true.
All right, any other comments or questions?
Steve, any other, everything good?
Thanks, Frank.
Thank you.
Good and full discussion. Okay, let's move on to chapter 3. Chapter 3 of the master plan. Comments, questions? First off, yes.
I have some comments when it's the appropriate time.
All right. Is there anyone from the community that wanted to say anything in relation to chapter 3? I think everyone was here to talk about Green Tree, but,
Yeah.
all right, then go ahead.
All right, good evening. How are you? Stephen Demoter. I'm a citizen of Mount Airy and a member of the town council. I have some suggestions on this chapter, and they're in two main areas, and I'll give you my comments. The first set of comments relates to the water section, which starts on page 42 and goes through about page 44. And the main comment is nowhere in here do we mention the fact that we have PFAS contamination in our groundwater. So it's not Mount Airy's fault. It's a national problem. Surrounding counties have the problem, and we have the problem. And so, for example, if you look at line 1074 on page 43, it says the timing of the eventual pollution of groundwater supply is uncertain, blah, 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 blah. Well, that's a certainty that we know. We have PFAS contamination. That gets factored into directly or indirectly as your frame of reference, planning, zoning, strategies to address, et cetera. So I think we need to talk about PFAS.
Yeah, I think that there are several times in this chapter where, you know, you're dealing with at least 10-year-old material.
Right, and that's
Be
why,
updated.
that's why I'm bringing it up.
Should I talk about the PFA thing from the conference real quick? Just so you're aware, when we did the Planning Commission conference last week, there was a company, and I have their card, who gave a talk on PFAS. And their Tetra Tech, their project manager and field operations lead spoke to us about PFAS. And their advice was to, first of all, get ahead of the problem. So they said that also the technology is still coming about on how to deal with them. So you want to start, hang on one second. You want to start looking at what like your Department of the Environment is doing. I looked up some of the county, I looked at Carroll County, and they defer to the state. So we can mention that here and just sort of, because we don't really have any kind of guidelines, and they said it is evolving. And they did make a note about what's scary is that some of the drills they use actually have the PFAS on them, so you actually contaminate as you drill. So that may be a requirement for us. I don't know, Barney, do you have any
So I can certainly add
information?
some language to the PFAS and where we are and you know,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
And then the second follow-up to that is, and I'll get more into the goals and implementation strategies section, but it seems like that's a place where you ought to have a goal or a strategy that talks about how to address PFAS. I know the town is developing or may already have a plan. I know we're working with the state. We have grants in for remediation. We're waiting for the final protective contaminant levels, but I think we need to speak to it, and we need to speak to it in the strategy section.
Did you say you have grants? We haven't gotten the grants yet for remediation?
I think the mayor, the last time he reported on it, it's still, I don't know whether we've heard formally or not, but that's something you can check with the town on.
Okay.
Yeah, we've gotten an additional letter recently. Basically, doesn't say you have it, but it says submit this stuff so that you can get it.
Oh, good.
So it's a good indicator. It's past the 30-day review that they held. And for them to say that the same amount, you need to submit these things. Some of it's like your financial statements and things like that. How are you going to pay it back even though it's 100% loan forgiveness, meaning we won't have to pay it back.
Okay, good.
So we're like real close to like them saying you have it, and then we can actually start engineering. But we do have a plan already in place. It was submitted with an application back in January, and we're just now getting to that point where we're getting that approval from MDE for the funding.
So do you think that we need to have that mentioned in every master plan forward, considering it's a long-term problem?
Yeah, I think it's certainly a good thing to add in there, saying this is a new thing at this time, and
Right.
and this is where we're at.
That's what the consultant said, everything is still emerging.
Yep.
I think we want to address it in our updated master plan.
Yeah, and I think we put language in the Carroll County Water Sewer Master Plan for Mount Airy, so we can have some similar language put into this.
Wonderful.
Okay. Second comment, since this is the natural resources chapter, and we talk about State Forest Conservation Act and reforestation and such, but we don't mention in here, and if it doesn't go here, it needs to go somewhere else, the fact that we have an 81 to 82 acre deficit of open space. That is a fact. That is something that we should be planning for in terms of goals and strategies. For example, perhaps there needs to be a goal or a strategy that addresses that. Maybe a goal or strategy is that the town makes an effort to purchase additional property to address the open space deficit. Open space is one of those things, the developer cannot ameliorate it. They cannot provide in lieu or in kind funding or land. The town has to fix that problem. So I think you need to speak to the open space deficit. And then the third set of comments would be around go to page 53, 52, where you lay out the goals and strategies. So this is a universal comment for all the chapters, but I'll get to the specifics of this chapter. I think you want to take a fresh look and crispen up your goals and strategy statement. I have a sense that these goals and strategies just get carried forward because that's what was there in the past. You really need to look at these and ask yourself, are these relevant today? If they're not, then don't keep them. Don't just carry them forward because they've been in the last two plans. Second comment is, in some cases, you have a goal identified that has no implementation strategy listed. So that implies that you're thinking about a goal, but you don't have a strategy. There should be parallel construction. Every goal should have at least one or several strategies to address it.
Well, I think that's true for every single one of the chapters.
I agree.
We need to reach out and make that request of the commission that will be taking the lead in each of these.
Okay.
They should know it backwards and forwards, and they should know what's current in terms of that technology.
Okay.
And our need to, to reach our goals.
Did you, Councilman, do you have this edited version?
I have the version that was.
The last page has
on the back.
the two strategic goals from the intro, which apply to this chapter on the back. More than adequate public facilities and responsible growth.
I see that.
Okay, you did note that those are there.
Yeah.
Because I know that there's a bunch of goals in the front that are, like you said,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, all over the place. Just want to make
Right.
sure that you saw that part. And that if you had any questions on those two, then maybe we can expound upon.
Okay. Let me get to another comment. And it pertains to this specific chapter, but for all of your chapters where you lay out goals and strategies. The goal and strategy you identify, there needs to be some lineage in the chapter to a real issue that's trying to be addressed. And let me give an example. Page 53, look at line 1430. There's an implementation strategy that says, establish performance standards for industrial heavy commercial uses to address water supply protection. I read that and I thought, I didn't really see industrial heavy commercial use contamination as a red flag. I didn't see that discussed as a main issue in the chapter. So why is this here? Is this really a need? I did see, however, if you go to page 43, look at line 1092. So I read this and I looked at the sentence on line 1092. It says, because the current 11 supply wells are located within the town's boundaries, land surrounding town well sites is subject to a higher density of development than land in either county. And then it discusses more about how development impacts water quality. So that tells me if we're so concerned about our water quality and the fact that we have groundwater wells, they're all within the town, and density of growth may impact that, that sounds like something you should be developing a strategy around. For example, you may have a strategy that says pursue zoning strategies that are less dense, or something to that effect. You see my point? My point is, everything in this plan should lay out the frame of reference that then gives you the justification for why you're making the zoning decisions you are. So because groundwater is an issue, density of growth within the town seems to be an issue. You've identified it on line 1093 or 1094. I'm suggesting to you, you ought to have a strategy that says, I mean, in essence, why are we proposing zoning that's high density when we're concerned that high density is going to impact groundwater? You see my point? There needs to be a lineage of what you say in the chapter to your strategies. And I think that might be the essence of my points. Yes, that is. So those are some thoughts specifically for this chapter, but carry those more broadly to all the chapters when you're writing your goals and implementation strategies. Make them current and real.
And that's also guidance out to the commissions.
Okay.
To take a look, to say, think in terms of at least 10 years, if not further.
Okay. So eventually, this master plan will come to the council for approval? Okay.
And the idea is to do our best to develop a draft chapter and send those to you, with the input of the relevant commission.
Right, okay. Well, those are the comments that would help me get to a place where I might be in a position to approve the plan. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any comments? Nope.
Well, and that's not going to happen if you just simply rotely take what was written, 10, 12 years ago and plug it in to say, this is still where we're at. Things haven't changed. We haven't learned any. Yeah.
Barney, I guess this is a question for you. Would we as a town have to, because of all the PFAS and the grants and everything, would we have to start thinking about an ordinance to restrict exposure, or is that more of like, we'll just keep following the state guidelines? Do we need to make certain, for the PFAS, do we need to start making rules as a municipality, or would be okay just following the state?
I think the EPA and MDE are
Good enough?
basically all over that. Things that have occurred in the past are not allowing to come back. They've put a stop on, certain things that, generate that PFAS.
So we're protected enough?
So I'd say we would just follow their lead, unless you had something specific.
I had a question on that, actually. They were telling us that the majority of the contamination that's caused problems with groundwater and ground exposure was places that had fires over the years, where they used a lot of that foam to put stuff out. Has the town done anything to research into any areas that would have been more likely to be exposed?
So we've looked into that. We've looked at, along I-70. We looked at some of the main roads where there might have been, larger crashes that might have, where that foam might have been used. And we looked at the vicinity of all of our wells and where we have the high concentrations, and there's no good place to say, here it is. We do have PFAS in many wells.
Okay.
And our wells are spread out throughout the town. So we did look at it.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it just doesn't seem to be one thing.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of hard to
Okay.
tell.
Thank you.
Right.
No aha. We, it's true, we are one aquifer, but we're several watersheds. So how that water moves, is a science beyond my knowledge, I'll be honest. But, it's very possible that once it gets into the watershed, it's going to affect most of your wells, but that's a possibility.
They talked about plume mapping, and I was going to look up more on that when I got home, but.
And I think the state is looking into the causes themselves as well.
Okay.
And not just, putting requirements on what we have to do to fix it.
All right,
Thank you.
so our next work session is next Thursday, the 9th.
November the 9th, yep.
Okay. And it's pretty obvious to me that we should all, between now and then, we should seriously look at Chapter 3, especially in terms of the insights, the recommendations we've heard tonight. And a lot of people contributed to it, but it's a collective step in the right direction. We need to be ready to take apart Chapter 3 and say, what do we need to tweak?
Since you're here, and you may not be there on November 9th, 1074, where it talks about pollution of groundwater supply, an example might be various medicinal elements contained in a leaky sanitary sewage system. Do we have a leaky sanitary sewage system currently? Is that something that, or is that just kind of an example that's in there just because?
I think it's just an example, yeah.
Okay.
Not to my knowledge. And it might be not necessarily our leaky, it might be something that's on our borders that has a, leak in their sewage system.
All right.
That could potentially get into our groundwater.
Okay. My second question, since Councilman DeMotor brought it up, density of development affecting water quality. True or false?
There's some truth to it. I mean, if you have a lot of roads that are close to your wells and you have a lot of salt that's putting out, that can affect your wells.
Okay.
Just as an example.
Okay.
That's why there was a question as to, what the radius around a well, there shouldn't be any impervious surface, any buildings.
So 325 feet, I believe that's in here.
Well, that was something that was being thrown out there, but I don't think that was ever implemented.
Oh, Carl's coming back again? That's 4.
Good gracious.
Wait a minute,
Let's just say
That's it.
that, let's just say that was being looked at and proposed to change, but it was not approved. So it's still whatever the standard is of what the federal government recommends or whatever it is, which I believe is 100 feet radius or 200-foot diameter.
Okay.
Right now.
That's federal level?
Let's just say there was no definite of where exactly that number came from. Nobody could really, even I couldn't find it. I don't believe the town engineer could find a hard, fast definition, or code section that states this, or anything. Even the previous document suggested, the planning document suggested increase it to whatever, like a 250-foot radius diameter. We could not find anything to substantiate or to back that up, that it was like from a government or state source that we felt, that I could really say, even to the developer or Ron Thompson from Vanmar, for the customer he's working for, couldn't even find anything. So it's hard to pinpoint an exact number that is hard, fast. So, but the general rule of thumb, the more distance, the better.
Okay.
So.
John, can you get your email here? Because I sent some links. Well, I'm trying to pull it up on my phone because I was looking at Maryland, like state level, and I'm trying to find if there's a reference in one of the links that I sent you. Oh, sorry.
Any upgrades to, so I'm looking at 1107, the town upgraded its sewage treatment plant in 1999. Is there any upgrades since 1999 we can kind of update this paragraph with?
Yes.
Okay. Can you get us the updates, so we could fill in those blanks there?
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
Yeah, it's 1107 through 1111. Or it says the town upgraded its sewage treatment plant in 1999.
Well, it does say enhanced nutrient removal in 2011.
2011, is that the last update? So that's the current
update.
updates? Okay,
Yes.
so we can leave that, all right.
So Barney, from your standpoint, in terms of water, in terms of natural resources, in terms of what this chapter attempts to cover and propose, do you see any glaring things that still need to be addressed, that need to be tightened up in terms of updating this?
This is probably the first time Barney's actually looked at this
Yeah.
chapter, so I don't
It
know.
is true.
I don't
It is
know if
true.
putting him on the spot.
I haven't done due diligence on this chapter, I'll
Can you
be
join
honest.
us on Thursday the 9th?
Absolutely, yeah.
You can, okay, good.
That would be super helpful. Yeah.
There you go.
I just didn't want to put him
Yeah.
on the spot because he just
But no,
got this
I
evening.
will definitely give this
I'm
a
sorry,
good
I didn't
thorough
know that
overlook.
this was the first time you're looking at it, so.
Yeah.
Have the other commissions looked at chapter 3 yet to give us their suggestions?
I don't know that they have. I don't think we've specifically put out the request to say to all of them, you know, keep your ears peeled. We're gonna give you advance notice, but we need your help because you're specialists in each of these areas.
And I think that this should be sent to them prior to us taking a stab at it and
Well-
getting the updated information,
This would be
like
water and
sewer,
this would be, yeah.
Yeah.
streets, roads, whatever it is. I think that all the chapters should be sent to the commission, appropriate commissions first,
Right.
before it gets handed to us to review. So then we have the final go through, to go through it.
And the staff,
Yeah,
yeah, appropriate.
and the staff.
I'm not sure if that'll be ready by the 9th if we do that.
It won't be ready by the 9th, but at least we can start to reach out and say, because that's been the intent all along.
Yeah, that's why I asked, is that I thought that this is, all right, that's why.
And again, this did go to a lot of the different commissions already once before you guys became planning commission members. So, and I think some of their edits did make it into this. And that's why it's coming back to us again now, and we're going back through it again.
So they have given. Not everybody, but some have given notes, or?
Yes, I mean, some of them have seen the specific chapters. Now, did every commission look at natural resources? I can't say that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if every commission needs to look at that. So and we have a timeline that we're trying to keep on track, and that would potentially derail us from where we're currently acting. Not to say that that's a bad thing, I'm just saying, we're trying to also get this completed and to the town councils for their review, because they might murder it once it gets to them, I mean.
Why are you looking at Steve?
I just think,
Or we can murder it right over here. Tim's back there too. I mean, all three of these.
I just think we need to get this right and not, yes, we need to get through this, but we also need to get it right and not have to keep going back. I want to make sure that the appropriate commissions review the appropriate chapters or the appropriate paragraphs that pertain to each chapter. So that way we have the correct information, we can reword it, wordsmith it, whatever we need to with it, but at least we have the correct information to add to this chapter.
Those specific commissions would more than likely be the best authorities on, what here will still work as it's laid out and proposed, what needs to be updated. Okay, we now know this, we now know such and such, we're concerned about such and such. Yeah.
That's their domain. This is not our domain. That's their domain.
There we go. Okay. All right. Item number 7 on tonight's agenda, and that's possible dates for the joint public work session for Mount Airy Crossing between Town Council and Planning Commission. Okay, and we're wondering, is that even feasible before December, if not January, given the time of year and all the other things that are going on and the lead time?
I did look at the calendar, and just, throwing out a couple dates quickly. I know, and again, really, I guess it's the question to the commission, do they want to do it in December or try to do it in December, or do they want to push to January? I mean, there's dates in December that could be the 14th, or the 18th, the 19th, the 20th, in December. It could work. We don't have a planning commission meeting typically in December. But, these are just dates that we're going to propose to the town council. Again, we have half of the town council here currently. So, I mean, we can't discuss that. Each one of them can say, you can raise your hand. Is that voting,
I'll just make,
Oh, my,
no.
the microphone, sir.
Here we go.
As
That's
in the-
6. No.
As in the meetings for this in general, I would say due to December and the holidays, if it's past the first 2 weeks in December, I would just say, just go ahead and shoot for January.
Yeah.
I mean, if it can be done in the first 2 weeks, because I'm presuming there's going to be at least 2 of the preliminary hearings or these type of hearings between the commission and the council. One where, we all get together with the developer and say, this is what we like, don't like, come back in a month or so with a revised plan. So if we can't do it, or if you all can't come up with dates in the first 2 weeks in December, I would say just for safety reasons and due to the holidays coming up in December, push it to the first meeting sometime in January.
Yeah.
And we'll just, it is on the agenda, tentatively agenda for the upcoming council meeting to talk about the dates too.
And again, I still need to arrange for
Yeah.
advertising, posting the property, arranging a location, which will probably be the American Legion again as well. And all those other things that have to be done prior to the meeting.
I think it needs to be done in January.
That's starting to feel right to me too.
I second that. January.
Council meeting will be moved to the 8th.
Yes, yeah, because the first is New Year's.
Okay.
So I have the 16th, a Tuesday, or the 17th, Wednesday.
Or the 23rd.
What venue?
It'll be American Legion again, probably.
That's fine.
Okay, so those are all possibilities. So have some more discussion, council members, and come back with your recommendation. That's what's sounding like to me.
So you want our recommendation, or you want to give us a recommendation?
Right, that's what we're trying to do, is figure out what days are available for you in January.
What are you recommending?
So that we can give them a recommendation, so they can find out.
I'll go with whatever works for the majority of our members.
Did you just say the 16th and the 17th?
I was saying the 16th or 17th, because again, the 15th is Martin Luther King.
Martin Luther
Again, you
King's
have
the
New
15th.
Year's and town council meeting, our planning commission workshop with the master plan. So that's why I chose that week of the 16th.
I'd say the 16th is fine for me.
Yeah, I'm okay with the 16th.
So Tuesday, the 16th,
7:30?
January.
7:30?
Yeah, I guess that's good,
It would have to be for me to be in order to make it.
Same.
So January 16th at 7:30.
Hey,
I know it is.
traffic. There's no football.
Yeah, football's done.
All right, good. Moving on to number 8. Jason?
Yes, sir.
Can you turn on your mic, please, sir?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was on earlier because I could not hear him. Pull this microphone so it's actually aiming right at your mouth.
Okay, so for the October 2nd Town Council recap, during public comments, Wayne Evans from Mount Airy Disaster Relief presented us with a binder and gave us an overview of the ins and outs of it. For more information on that or to secure a binder, you can visit the website, mountairydisaster.org, or his Facebook page. It's a pretty cool little binder. Really cool presentation, too. New appointments, we had Josh Marks unanimously appointed to Streets and Roads, and Daniel Gilmore was unanimously reappointed to Streets and Roads as well. For new business, the Prospect Water Main Replacement Phase 2 was unanimously approved. The project was awarded to Metra Industries for $1.7 million. The funds were well within the budget for 2024 and will be paid through the ARPA fund. Ordinances, Ordinance 2023-40 regarding wells and their maximum yield of 75,000 gallons per day was approved and adopted by the count of 3-2. Ordinance 2023-32 was motioned and seconded to move to a public hearing on November 6th from 6:40 to 7 p.m. That changes the townhomes per block to 6 and the verbiage of property owner to applicant developer. That's something that Carl changed on the fly. Ordinance 2023-35 was unanimously approved to be withdrawn. And ordinance 2023-39 regarding cannabis limitations was motioned and seconded for public hearing scheduled on November 6th as well from 7 to 7:20 p.m. And that was everything for that night.
Do we have a zoning administrator report? All right, any questions or comments about that?
I have no questions.
Okay. So, Thursday, November 9th at 7:30, right here, be our master plan work session. And let's be sure that we have gone through chapter 3 and we've wordsmithed it in much detail as possible so we can make that a very productive meeting. Okay? All right, and next planning commission date, our work session's on the 9th. Our public planning commission meeting date is November 27th. Okay. Anybody have anything else? All right, then I'll declare this meeting adjourned.
Carl, have anything else?
Thank you.
Very productive, thanks, folks.
Carl, anything else?
Carl, is there anything else?
Anything else, Carl?
No, that's it.